Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the weekly landscape update video I do on this house that I moved into in the late fall or early winter of last year. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. There's a playlist on this channel called New House. I'll link it up here in the corner if you're watching on YouTube, and you can catch up with where I'm at this point. This is nowhere near a finished project. This is not really a garden tour every week. It's more of a this is what I have accomplished moving forward to an end goal, which will probably take most of the rest of this year. If you've followed along, you know where it came from and you know where it is at this point. And like I say, it's easy to catch up on that playlist. A couple things I'm going to have upcoming as I've decided to sod that, go ahead and sod that space in the front that's going to be turf. And I'm going to sod this space back here that's going to be patio in the future. I just make it look better on the video, for video content. I think it'll look much better to have be back to having nice turf like I had over the winter in this space. I'm also going to go ahead and put a light layer of triple shredded hardwood mulch on this entire space. If you've been following along since the beginning, I got these wood chips for free. Unfortunately, they bleach out big time and they don't show off the plants all that great. I've had several comments based on that, and I understand that as well. I'm seeing the same thing you are. It's just, I'm trying to move the other projects forward. It's broken down enough now that I can go ahead and put some sort of top coat on it, and I think that dark coloration in that mulch will show off all the progress much, much better. There's fence projects coming and a greenhouse project coming and all kinds of things here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and irrigation projects, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So this past week, I got the window boxes on the house over here. I painted 2 boards for the to go behind it, so that, and then screwed those on, and so that prevents any moisture from that window box from being up against the building. Somebody pointed that out in a comment. I was already going to do that. It's just easier to attach it to the building, but as a side benefit, obviously the moisture is not right up against the building. It'll rot those 2 boards long before it does any damage to the building. I polyurethaned some old garden tools that I had and hung those on the wall there. And I can't remember if that tree, metal tree thing was up here on last week's video or not. I can't remember if that was part of the video or not. But anyways, the building over there is coming along. I've got several more projects to go with that. I'm also going to run drip irrigation up into those window boxes. I've got plants, and then there's sitting in the boxes right now. I just haven't had time to get them in before I needed to shoot this piece of video, and I still have to paint, do a little bit of painting on the trim on that building. It's not actually quite finished painting. Big project I had over here was the greenhouse over here. I've got lots of construction work to do on it, obviously, and the fencing around it is terrible and so on and so forth, but I've got to get started on propagation. And so I started to reset my mist up, and I've got 2 methods I can use for controlling my mist propagation. The reason for the mist, if you're not watching, haven't watched propagation videos, it is when you take a cutting off a plant. Let's say I take a cutting off of anything out here, any of these hollies or hydrangeas or anything. They don't have roots on them, and in order to get them rooted, you have to keep the top of the plant, the leaves that are left on it, moist. The mist is controlled by either a timer, or I have this little thing called a mist-o-matic that will turn on and off as it gets dry. When it dries out, it pops up. When the water comes on, it weights it back down and turns the water back off. But anyway, it just controls the amount of moisture that's on the leaf until it starts to root out on its own, and then the plant can live on its own. It's the best time to be doing propagation here at the end of June and early July. So I've got my mist set up. I need to either gravel that floor in there or mulch the floor in there. I've got to level out the mist as well. So that project is well on its way, and I'm ready to start taking cuttings, hopefully within the next week or so on that. I've put several plants in the ground. One thing is actually on the building. I put in that azzmatazz grape on the front corner of the building over there, and there's a video for that azzmatazz grape a couple days ago. That's a really super interesting continuous blooming or ever-bearing grape. It flowers and fruits continuously all season rather than maturing all the fruit at one time like typical grape plants do. It's a muscadine hybrid, and so the grapes taste like muscadine, but they're actually sweeter and they're seedless. So super, super interesting. I think lots of people will want that grape You know, because it gives, for a backyard gardener, I think having even just a little handful of grapes, you know, once every 2 weeks or once a week all summer long would be far more rewarding than waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So anyway, let's see, what else did I get in the ground? There's a new Magnolia called Stellar Ruby Magnolia that Pat McCracken did. I actually did a video at his place for it was actually just an introduction video that companies will use to show the plant off. It's a super interesting introduction from Pat McCracken, same person who did the Sunshine Ligustrum and that Touch of Gold Holly that I've shown on the channel. I also put a orange flowering Osmanthus Fragrance in the ground over here. It actually still has a few flowers on it. Usually they bloom when it's cool outside in the like fall, and then typically they stop in the winter, and then they'll put a few more flowers on in the early spring. But for some reason it's almost July. I guess it's because it's been just so cool outside, but it's still got a few flowers on it. Super fragrant orange flowers, not quite as cold hardy as regular Osmanthus Fragrance, of which I have 3 in the ground over here. But I think here in an urban setting near downtown Raleigh, it'll be fine. But it's a zone 8 hardy Osmanthus Fragrance. I got out all my drip irrigation supplies. I meant to actually get started on it, but I just haven't had time this week. It's been quite warm outside too. These projects that I've had going on all week, and the irrigation definitely definitely fought me a little bit on the greenhouse over here. The vegetable garden over there will be the first place that I irrigate, and so you'll see that next Wednesday. I'll have irrigation in the bed over there. I'm going to walk through and show you the layout next Wednesday of how I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a second meter. In the city of Raleigh, you can get a second meter for irrigation. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to run it off of hose and timers for now, but I'm going to set the zones up in an organized fashion so that when I hook into the city's water, all I have to do is run one main line back here to the back and one line across over to where the vegetable garden area is over there, and I can have 2 zones over here and 2 zones back over there. It should be super organized, but I'll show you the layout. We'll walk around next week once I've got some pipes on the ground, and you can see that, and then I'll start hooking all of the rest of this up as well to it, and all the containers. If you followed my container planting videos this spring, they all have the drip pipe run into them already, so that that'll be easy to add them to the irrigation system. I don't know if I'll have it sodded next week. I think I'll already have the mulch here. One other thing I've got to do is my driveway is absolutely covered in debris, construction debris from the construction that I've done on the back of the house and some things that have gone on inside the house. That stuff's got to go because I'm also about to pull the siding off the rest of the house. So this is a lot of projects. Pull the siding off the rest of the house so I can get a hardy plank on the rest of it. So I'm thinking by Wednesday I'll have that driveway finally cleared off, and then I'm just going to pile stuff right back on it again. So a quick vegetable garden update. Green beans have completely covered the fence over there. They look great. Already picked a few green beans over there. I staked up some of my climbing cucumbers that have finally taken off. I had a rabbit do some damage to the first ones I planted. I've planted some additional ones, and they look great. Cucumbers coming on them already. Tomatoes look fantastic. If you follow me on Instagram, you see that I have already started picking tomatoes, and I just have a ton over there. And just to add to it, there's a space along the edge of the driveway pad, which I never show the driveway pad because it's always a mess from construction. There's about a 2-foot wide space before the property line. I have planted tomatoes there, put them in cages, and planted some additional green beans and some other things down that side. I'm going to have more food than I know what to do with here. The space where the lettuce is, where I'm waiting for it to come to seed, I planted some zucchini and some additional cucumbers and peppers. I think I showed the peppers last week. They already look great in there. So as soon as those rest of those lettuce plants can come out, that space will look like a vegetable garden again. The seed that I collected last week, I'm still drying under the in the screen porch over here, and I'll show you that next week. Separating that seed. I bought some jars this week. I bought some little mason jars this week that I will store the seed in. Somehow I haven't lost them. I have a hard time finding things. In the last 3 years, I've sold a nursery, garden center, 2 other retail locations, and a house. And I have everything. I just have a hard time sometimes locating things. So I bought some new mason jars for seed, and they'll end up just going in the freezer after we separate it. Hopefully the rest of that lettuce seed will be ready to get next week, and I can show you that whole process at one time. So thanks again, guys, for following along with these weekly updates. Crazy amount of projects to do the rest of this summer, and I think by the end of that, this place will finally look like what I had envisioned it 6 months ago when I started this project. Thanks for watching.